Welcome to the Meet at the Creek podcast, and I'm your host, Pastor James Jeffrey. If you have questions or comments, send them to mudcreekpastor@gmail.com. That's mudcreekpastor@gmail.com. Meet at the Creek, sermons, discussions, and real talk. Let's get into it. And welcome into the Meet at the Creek podcast. I'm your host, Brother James Jeffrey, joined tonight by our very special guest, Scottsboro business owner, former school board member. I don't think you ever served on the city council.
No, not
yet. Mr. Robbie Copenhaver. It's great to have Robbie on the show. I consider Robbie and I to be friends. I don't know if he claims me or not, but I claim Robbie. And I'm blessed to be a friend of Robbie's, and I've been bringing different people on the show. Just number one, that's what I've been kind of telling everybody, to let people get to know the folks who have influenced me, people who have been not just influential in my life, but also a friend to me, and people that I've shared space with and shared air with and spent a lot of time with, because, a man is generally defined by who he keeps company with and the kind of people that he keeps company with. I've been fortunate in my life to be able to have a lot of, just a lot of different friends in a lot of different areas of life. And you were probably the first business owner outside of Greg Bell that I ever really kind of got to know. And a lot of people don't know. I'm blown away how many people that I know who know you, but they don't really know Robbie. I think I hope to get into a little bit of that tonight and kind of show my listeners and people who watch, and maybe people who've never met you before, the opportunity to get to know who you are just a little bit better. And I'm not scared to throw a shameless plug in. Everybody loves Captain D's. It's still a great little seafood place.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I still ain't got over you going up to $8 on that two-piece, but
I don't know. I'd have to question you on that.
I've been giving you crap about that since it was $4.50 a plate. Well, we've had a lot of fun down the line, and Robbie and I go way back. I guess the very first interaction I ever had with you was back when I was part-time helping out at K98 a little bit. God, I can't believe I just said that out loud.
And Greg's listening.
Yeah, man, and he's watching. Sure as the world. I do, in my defense, I do salute every time we go by that building, whether he's with us or not. But anyway.
Yeah, I forgot about those times. Yep.
But the very first interaction I had with you, Robbie, you decided you were going to quiz me on Scottsboro football history just to make me look stupid, boy. And I mean, you asked me questions, and you had that book that Greg made, and you knew I didn't have a copy. You were digging through there,
That's right,
trying to find questions that there's no possible way I would know the answer to. And man, you asked some doozies. I mean, you didn't hit me with the easy ones, but I said right then when it was over, I was like, I don't know if I like that guy or not, but he got me. I got to give him props. He was ready, and I wasn't.
Yeah, good little show we had. We had a live call-in show at that time. And
yes.
People would call in and ask, and I'd do a trivia question, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. And, then shortly thereafter, you moved to WWIC,
yep.
And I stayed behind. And then about the time, when Greg was on, we talked about that. About the time I was ready to give it up, and they were ready to give up on me too. The feeling was mutual, I promise. Greg, he called me before in summertime at Kmart, and he said, if you'd like to come work for me, then I got a spot for you. So I said, let me think about it. That lasted about 35, 40 minutes. And I called him when I got home.
Yep.
And I've been with him ever since. And it was one of the greatest things that I ever did for my own self. Personally, it didn't have nothing to do with professional. There's not a lot of money to be made in radio, and there's not a lot of fame to be had doing this when you're the stat guy. But there's a lot of fun to be had, and I have had it. I could tell a bunch of stories that I'm not going to, but there's been a few times when we laughed so hard that we had to just go back to commercial break because we couldn't even see. I couldn't even see to read the stats. I couldn't breathe for laughing.
Oh, yes. I believe I laughed more on those away games coming in,
Yes.
riding down there with you and Greg, and we get to laughing and we get to thinking about it at the ball game. And, we'd come back from a break and neither one of us could talk. So it was fun.
That's awesome. Rupert Wright says Robbie Copenhaver is the man. Much respect. Rupert watches from Texas every week. His sister is Andrea Bryant, and Lindsay, our landlord, is his niece, and of course Bill being the brother-in-law. I got to meet Rupert, and then just here at this place, very first time I ever met him, he came by. And, gosh, didn't know who he was, but I really enjoyed talking to him. And then I found out later on, just who he was and how popular a guy, he was around the area, and he knew the same people that I looked up to and respected. He was y'all's peer. It just immediately made me fall in love with the guy too. And this past year, he's been, he got voted in 2 different Hall of Fames, and man, he's just an outstanding guy. And I know you're glad to have known him, and I'm certainly better for having spent a little bit of time with him too. He's a great man. I appreciate him.
He was one of the people I met when I first moved here in the 7th grade, and him and his brother Clyde, 2 great people, and Clyde passed away about a year or so ago. But Rupert, you can't beat a better man than him, and he's just a good guy all the way around, and I've never heard anybody say a bad word about him. And we played football together and here at Scottsboro, and you just don't meet one better than him.
Yeah, that's right. He's a lot of fun, man. And Joe Hollis comes to church here sometimes, Coach.
That's an Ohio State man right there.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. He's definitely an Ohio State guy too, and he loves Auburn. He loves everybody but Alabama, so he's your kind of guy. It's a hilarious thing, how I ended up with Coach. Coach came here to watch a baptism, and he just liked it. We hit it off, and he stayed around. It was very good. I met him out here in the parking lot. We shook hands, and he looked me in the eye, told me his name, and he didn't introduce himself as coach. Didn't say anything about football. He was here 5 or 6 weeks before I ever knew he was the head coach at North Jackson.
Yeah.
That was the year I got to do PA, and I'd always wanted to do PA. And he immediately set in on me about coming and being the chaplain. So I would preach up there on Fridays and drive to Scottsboro and do PA.
Boy, that went over like a lead
man,
balloon.
I was known as Tater the Trader everywhere I went.
Exactly right. You sure are.
And now I still do PA for basketball at Scottsboro, and all those football players that play basketball, whenever they're there, they're like, "Listen, man, preach, you better be putting a little extra on our starting lineups."
That's funny.
It's hilarious. We have so much fun. Robbie, before we go any further, I need to say this. There's a few people watching already. Our ladies group is still going on, so they haven't came over just yet. But when they do, there'll be 30 or 40 of them log in at one time, and that's when I'm going to be terrified of who might be actually the questions that might get asked. Just to put it out there ahead of time, though, don't ask for freebies. You ain't getting free dinners at Captain D's just because Robbie's here, and don't ask me to get you coupons either. I ain't doing it. But no, I'm just kidding. if you are watching already, do us a favor, like and share. You can love it. You can if you're gonna put an angry face, at least share it, and then that way other people have the opportunity to see it too. But how I'd like to start, Robbie, I want you to, if you don't care, just a little bit, tell everybody about yourself. You don't have to get into anything personal if you want to, but share a little bit about your story, how you got to this area, maybe what keeps you in the area, because you have other places you could go if you chose. You own several businesses all over the South, but and you can talk about that too. Your experiences, and so I love to hear about it anyway. You've shared bits and pieces of those things, while we were traveling, but I think your story is very interesting. You have a powerful story that people don't even know, and you don't have to talk about anything you don't want to. And I won't press you either, but anything you want to talk about, it's open.
Yeah.
So I'll turn it over to you and let you ride.
Well, to begin with, Tater, I came down here in 1969. I was 12 years old, and I was born and raised in Ohio. I've got an older brother and an older sister, and a younger brother and a younger sister. And my dad came down here and went to work at Fabius, Alabama, for Arch Mineral Coal Company. And so, that was a big shock in my life. And also my brother and sister, they were in high school at the time. And so we moved down here, and we stayed until my senior year. And then my father took a job in Southern Illinois working for another coal company. So I had to leave here my senior year. And even people that I graduated with, they go, "You did?" And time flies, and they just forget about all that stuff. And so, but I went to Chester, Illinois. That's the home of Popeye. That's where Popeye originated, on the walls in a building in downtown Chester. And as soon as I graduated, I worked one summer in the coal mines up there, and in strip mining, reclamation of property and that they've mined. And I came straight back down to Scottsboro because, I know I lived 12 years of my life in Ohio, but I wanted to come back here where I grew up. I know it wasn't that many years from my 7th grade to my 11th grade year, but I wanted to come back here. And so I did, and went to work and did this and that, and did some things that probably I won't even talk about. But I had a good time there for a short time, and then some unfortunate things happened. I got my brother totaled my vehicle, and I was trying to go to school at Northeast and work, and it didn't work. I didn't have enough money, and so I moved back home to actually my parents moved to Tuscaloosa at that time, and they're only in Illinois a little over a year and a half. And so I moved down there and worked at a funeral home, and they actually owned 2 or 3 funeral homes and 4 cemeteries and a vault company, and I did a little bit of everything. And I worked hours. I mean, I'm talking 80 hours a week. I was just wanting to make money, put it back, get a car, come back to Scottsboro. And then the opportunity with a friend of mine, Chris Murphy, he was working at Captain D's in Fort Payne. And his girlfriend at the time, her dad was one of the part owners of the store in Fort Payne, and they just opened it. And he knew I wanted to come back. So I came up here and interviewed, and so me and my brother both came up here and were interviewed. And so Matt Matthews, who just passed away about a month and a half ago, he's from Stevenson, Alabama, and Millard Matthews is his real name, and he said, either one of you can take the job. So my brother said, you take it. So I did. And so I started in Fort Payne as pretty much a regular employee, knowing that there might be a shift manager open. And so it did open. And down the road, and me and Chris lived together at Goose Pond Apartments and drove back and forth. And that was in 1978. In fact, this year I'm just now celebrating, this month, 45 years with Captain D's. And to make a long story a little shorter, one thing led to another, and I became the manager of the store in in Scottsboro in a couple of years. And then they asked me to move to Louisiana, and they were developing that area in North Louisiana. And so they asked if I wanted to go. I went. And so we went down there and went to work in Ruston, Louisiana, lived in Ruston. And then one thing led to another. I ended up being the area director down there. And then I switched jobs with the guy up here, and I came back home, and he went down there because he wanted to change. He was from Rainsville. And then I became the area director up here of these two restaurants, and then it wasn't long after that I ran the whole company. And then some more years down the road, I bought a Captain D's in Manchester, Tennessee. That was my first one. And me and my other two partners. And then after that, one of the original partners of Scottsboro and Fort Payne and all that, I bought him out of all the other restaurants. And so me and Sandy Howery, we own 7 restaurants now. And so I think everybody asked me what college did I go to, and I said I went to the School of Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
And I couldn't go to school with the hours that was going on, but everything worked out well. I mean, it took a lot of hard work, and I'm proud of what I did all that time, and made some commitments, and was hard to move. But my dad, when he moved from Ohio to Alabama, he made that commitment with 5 kids. And I thought about that a lot. I said, if he can make that commitment with 5 kids and leave his hometown that he grew up with and his family grew up, and his mother and dad were there, and he left it all to come down here. And I said, I can do that myself. So that's how all that developed.
So you think, I mean, this is your opinion. You said you didn't go to college, and I up until recently, I had pursued education 2 or 3 different times, but never actually followed through with, finishing. I had the family and had to work, and it's the same scenario. I didn't have enough time, and if I had enough time, I didn't have enough money. Mm-hmm. So you know how that is. If you got time, that means you're not working as much. When you're raising a family, on what the wages were around here, if you had 2 vehicles and the house payment and the insurance and all that other to pay for, there's just not a lot, not a lot left. So when we started out, my wife and I now, we enjoy more things than we ever have or have enjoyed, because we don't have all the extra to handle. But, we have grandkids, so we pretty well stay broke. You know how that is.
Yeah, 2 of them. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Getting a lot of comments. One of the things I'll just go ahead and ask it is, Jonathan Beatty wants to know, can he get that sweet tea recipe?
It's real easy. It's just sugar and tea. And a lot of sugar. I can tell him a lot of sugar. We sell a lot of tea here. A lot of tea.
Oh man, everybody loves Captain D's sweet tea.
Yep.
My wife somehow or another figured out how much sugar it takes to imitate y'all's tea, but every once in a while we still just ease over there just to get a cup. Don't even get a lot, don't even hardly get anything to eat. Just there's something about it. It feels like dope or something. I don't know what it is.
We got a lot of people hooked on it. It's all about sugar. Sugar can get a lot of people hooked on anything. That's
you heard of Sand Mountain Slim Fast? That's that Tennessee Valley Fat Fast is what that is. That's that stuff's got so much sugar in it it'll give you diabetes. It's wonderful though. I'm telling you, it's there's nothing like it. And we're getting a lot of comments. People, watching, saying different things. Craig Holcomb said he'll be surprised if you even get to talk, much as I like to talk. But I'll be sure and choke him when this is over. But anyway,
Michelle worked for me.
That's right. Yep. She sure did. A lot of people have passed through.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
I imagine being in the business you're in, you probably employ a lot of high school, college kids, people that are working part-time trying to go to school, things like that. So you've probably seen a good, at least a third of the population have probably worked for you at some point in time.
Yeah, I mean, I run into them all the time between Scottsboro and Fort Payne. It's just amazing how many people will come through the drive-thru, and I hate when they do this. Do you remember me? And I go, well, you look familiar, and then they tell me their name. But, yeah, I've had a lot of employees work for me that their children have worked for me, and they were in high school when they worked for me. And so I've gone through 2 generations, and I'm probably crowding that next generation because it's amazing how many people have met there and were married, and it goes on, and it's just a great, we try to make it a great place, a family place, and make it enjoyable for everybody, and that they'll stay with you if you do that.
It's Jonathan. He told Craig Holcomb, he said, "Son, I need you to get Michelle to write that down." Oh man! So you said you didn't go to college, and I today I've been working on finishing seminary. It's been really important to me. I've been trying to do it for 15 years. And I was telling my daughter earlier on the phone, I said, today's her birthday. And I always said she was born 5 years to the day that, my grandfather was very important to me, my mom's dad. He was like a dad to me in a lot of ways, and I lived with him for a long time. And anyway, when he passed away, 5 years to the day that he died, Natalie or the day we buried him, Natalie was born. And gosh, when she was born, she unfortunately, she in some ways looks like me. So and I looked like him, and so it was like seeing, you know how it is when they take half characteristics and stuff, and it was like seeing him. And I said, I didn't even think about it. Last night, Dustin proctored me, and I tested for my doctorate degree. It's the hardest thing. I thought the associates was the hardest thing I'd ever done. Then I thought the bachelor's was the hardest thing I'd ever done. Then the master's, and that was the hardest thing ever. And then the Lord worked it out where I could have the opportunity to do this. And I went through a school in Swartz, Louisiana, and man, it was. Yep. I had to learn things that I wasn't expecting to have to learn. Yep. I had to do subjects that I have never had any experience with. It challenged me. I'm 47, and I did not want to be challenged like that at 47. I just always thought I'd be the guy who, piddled around, worked jobs, maybe drive a truck, and I enjoyed radio. That's what I wanted to do coming out of high school was communications. And I almost went to Jacksonville State and pursued that, but I didn't have the drive. I didn't have anybody kicking my tail, keeping me in line. I look back now and I wish, I'd had a different mindset. There's no telling where I could be at today, but I'm not disappointed in how my life's turned out. I'm very thankful because I'm just like you. Being out there working for it, I appreciate what I have now much, much more than I would have if I had kind of walked into a better situation early on. I probably would have made different choices and wouldn't have appreciated what I have as much.
I remember when Chris Murphy asked me to come up here, and my dad actually ran my grandfather's restaurant in Ohio, and it was called Robson's Restaurant. And so I told him where I was going. He said, "You don't need to do that." He said, "You need to just stay right here." He said, I ran a restaurant for 10 years. You don't need to do that. So I did, and then after all the years gone by, and I was buying some Captain D's, he goes, "Well, I guess I was really wrong, wasn't I?"
Yeah.
I said, "Well, if it was, that's the first time you were wrong because he was the person that was the worker in the family, and he taught me a lot about work." Right. And I did go to college. I made it in the door probably about 5 times, and that was about it at Northeast. But he was my push. I mean, I always wanted to satisfy my mother and dad more than anything, and I was going to make it. I mean, I wasn't going to fail at this, and it all worked out. God had, had a direction for me, and there were some times that were pretty hard. And in Louisiana, we lost a set of twins that went full term, and it was tough. I mean, it was really, really tough down there in Louisiana when you're by yourself,
Right.
you know. And but everything worked out, and came back home, and like I said, it was I've been blessed.
Yeah. I remember, and I don't know how many people even know that about you, but I didn't know it about you until we lost a grandchild. And I remember standing in the radio station, it's just me, you, and Greg, and you said, you gave me some advice, solid, and I give that same advice to people now that I run into in those same situations. Yeah. I tell those guys what you told me, because that was, you know, your experience. And like you said, you were by yourself. You just had to figure it out, and you are generous with your knowledge about just life in general. And maybe people don't even know that if they don't, it's because they're not paying attention, because you hand it out sometimes whether they want to hear it or not. But it's been, you know, there are a few people that I've run into that have similar story. I work for Stacy, you know, and it's the same kind of situation with him. He loves to share what he knows. Sometimes I think he thinks he's vain in doing it, but I do understand, you know, when you see somebody going through something and you've been through it, you can't help it. If you got a heart for people and care about people, just, you know, you just can't help it. You got to tell them, you know, what you know. And if they listen, they listen. If they don't, they don't. But that's on them.
It is, and it's, you know, everybody. You always get stuff from other people, you know.
Yeah.
And it's everybody goes through ups and downs, you know.
Right.
It's like Robson, when he was born, he had an operation when he was 6 weeks old, and he separated his skull, and then they did it again when he was in kindergarten, and his skull grew together, and they had to go in there, and I mean, it was horrible, and I'm thinking, you know, what have I done? You know, all this is happening, and it was tough times, but you know, you find a way to get through it, and everything's good. And met my wife Michelle, and it's been, you know, great ever since.
I remember when my mom, she bought the house over there next to where Michelle lived, and you know, we'd see you, you know, coming in and out, and that was before I even got to know you, you know, really well. Just, you know, Mom knew you.
Yep.
And I guess you and her had some colorful conversations down through the years. Yes, I've had some of those with her too.
Yes, when you're on the school board, you're going to get some of that from people that are employed in the school system. But she was a sweetheart, and she believed in what she believed in what she said, and she believed what she did in work, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, I remember that when she was when it was getting right there close to the end, you know, you came over to see her, and I appreciated that so much. But what really stuck with me was something you said about her, because it's just I think the last time that you and her had really stood close to each other, it was one of those times where she had an opinion and you had an opinion, and I was standing in the middle, you know, going back and forth, and you guys were. And, but she was laughing, and you were laughing, and it was like you both understood that neither one of you were going to
back down.
Neither one of you going to back down, and nobody was going forward, and it was funny to watch. But she always said the same thing about you that you said about her, and y'all didn't coordinate it, but she always said that, you know, Robbie may not do everything to my liking, but Robbie will always be there. If you got something to say, he'll listen, but he may have something to say too, and you're gonna have to listen to that. You'll know exactly where you're at. He's not gonna run away from you, and he's not gonna say something here right now, and then go say something different to somebody else, because he knows it's gonna get back to you, and then he's gonna have to deal with you again. He'll just go ahead and say it now, and I found that to be the truth. You know, dealing with you. I always liked that about you. And then you said, when you came in that day, you said, you know, there's one thing about her is you always knew where you stood.
Yep.
Well, she was different in in that respect. She would really get you. But man, it was those were some great memories, some really good times. I don't think people fully comprehend the things that people go through and how they help other people by persevering through those things. You shared a little bit with me about, that story with your twins and, when they having to bring them home. And you gave me a piece of advice, and I'll share it with everybody else, but because I think it was one of probably the greatest pieces of advice I ever got. You said you'll get over it a lot quicker than she will, way before she does. So, you need to remember that it affects her differently than it affects you, and you got to be a different guy, and you got to change until she can change.
Yeah.
And that was so. A lot of people, and I tell people this a lot of times. That season of my life, it really transformed who I started becoming a different guy during that season of life. It changed everything. It changed the way I viewed life. It changed the way I viewed the ministry. It changed the way I approached everything. Everything changed. And had I not gotten that piece of advice, I might have handled it differently. I might not have could have understood. But somebody that I respected and had a relationship with and that cared enough about me to tell me the truth. And, it's kind of that Ben Shapiro thing. Facts don't care about feelings. I knew you weren't being hateful when you said it, but you were just right to the point.
Yeah.
You did try to pat me through it. You just got a political call. Somebody wanted to get my vote, and they ain't having it. I'm not running for president or mayor or council or commission, so they can leave me alone. I'm good. Yep. I threaten to do it a lot of times, but I don't. I'm close enough to it now. I used to think that it was just hogwash, but now in the job I have, I understand better about the politics, especially locally.
Oh yeah,
there's so many things that people don't know, and I used to not know. I spoke a lot out of ignorance because I didn't know it, but now that I've had to deal with it, I got much respect for people that have had to be in there.
It's easy to make a judgment, and sometimes I'm real bad at it, to make a judgment in people in the city council or Board of Education, whatever it may be. But if you don't know all the facts, I've been on the other side of the fence, and I knew all the facts. You didn't know all of the facts. If you would have known all the facts, you would be right in my corner. But and being in politics, and some things you can't let out, and if you would love to do it, but you can't do it, and it would solve the problem. But that's just not how you work. You just got to keep some things that are you can't talk about publicly, and those are things that are done behind closed doors that are private, and you're protecting another person. So and that's hard to do because you're going to take abuse over it. But you got to do what you're supposed to do.
I found myself in the same scenario. I can't tell everything I know.
Right.
If I did, it would, because people react. Some people would be for it, others would be against it. But the people who would be against it would actively work to tear it apart. So you just have to be quiet about it. Doesn't mean you're trying to be sneaky, because one of the things that I've learned is until ground is broke, nothing's for sure.
No, it is. That is a fact. Yeah.
And sometimes till the doors open.
Yeah.
Nothing is. And sometimes after the doors open, you got to. There's been plenty of businesses come through our area that open, and they do good for a week or two, and then one of the things that we got these new businesses coming now, and I always get tickled every time I drive down the highway. I see people lined up, a mile up the road trying to get into the drive-through. I say, man, I hope you guys aren't expecting it to be this way. They're just everybody. Oh, you know, but
it happens everywhere.
It does,
you know?
man.
It happens everywhere. We're in 6 different cities, and when something opens up, everybody's like that all over the country. They're going to try it, and it's just like we just moved down the road in 2003. We went from our old location where Popeyes was and moved down the road, and you'd think it was a grand opening again. It was just people just are interested in seeing the new facility, and we were selling the same food.
Yeah.
It was just crazy here and in Fort Payne. We moved both locations, and it's like a grand opening, and we've never been here before.
Yeah, no. And you know what? I'm gonna tell you what bothers me about so much about going to Captain D's is I hate going through the drive-through. But the reason that I hate going through the drive-through is the same reason I love going to Captain D's. It's because of how long it takes to get through there. It's because of what's going on the inside. What we were just talking about. It's those things that are happening that you can't see.
Yep.
You know, you guys don't just sit around with stuff sitting around, you know, in hot heat or hot oil.
Yep.
You wait until it's ordered before you cook it. So when you get it, it's still hot when you get it home. Mm-hmm. If you go through the drive-thru, it's still hot when you get to the house because it got cooked right there on the spot. You know, I've worked when I was a kid, and I know how all these places do things.
Yeah, we've got a lot of.
I don't eat
items.
those places.
Yeah, we've got a lot of different items in our restaurant and having a drive-through with that many different items is a challenge. You know, it's always been that way. But yeah, we've got a great crew. Always have had a great crew, great management team, and you know, they just do such a wonderful job at all of my locations, and just proud of them and how they do. You know?
Yeah. When COVID hit, you know, it seemed like everybody took a hit, with the exception of a few businesses. You were able to stay open because of the drive-through, and man, there was a couple of nights I just turned around, went back home, made a sandwich because man, it was lined out like a grand opening. But I remember talking to you during that, and you were like, man, I don't know if I even want to open the lobby back up again because
it was good. It was good.
Yeah.
I mean, it was good to just run that drive-through, and a lot of people are leaning back towards that. But we made it, and we made it happen. And you know, we didn't have online ordering at that time. We didn't have DoorDash and all that. It was there, but it wasn't that big in Scottsboro.
Right.
And that's what developed now. We do a huge amount of DoorDash and home deliveries. I mean, you know, from that point, and then we do a lot of online ordering. That we never had that until COVID hit, and then that opened up a whole new avenue, and it's been good. I mean, that's been a good thing, and people, you know, they can pull up and park in one of those parking spaces, turn on your emergency flashers, and they'll call and say, come out. You will go out there and deliver the food to them. So it's opened up a lot of different avenues when that happened, but it was a challenge. It was never been through nothing like that before in my life when it comes to trying to get enough people to work, and I don't want to. Nobody I know wants to go through that again, but it was a challenge.
You know, you said a lot of times people pass through a lot of different employers around here. But I'm friends with a lot of people who worked for you as a teenager. We're the same age. I never did work at Captain D's, but a lot of people that I have good friends who did work for you. And my wife's in the food industry. She's the lunchroom manager at the high school. And she never worked for you, but she knows a lot of people who did. And I think one of the reasons that you've been able to have sustained, you know, success is all the way through that, even though you took your lumps, is they all say the same thing. Robbie holds people to a standard. You don't get away with just anything. But he treats people good. You know, he takes care of his people, and he does his best to help them. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I'm not going to share some personal stories that people have told me about things that you've done. It's nobody's business but yours and theirs. But some of the things that I've heard, some of the stories that people have told me of things that I never knew and nobody else knows, that they've shared with me, it ain't no wonder that you're still doing good. And
we like family.
Yeah.
You know, I treat them all like family, and we try to create that atmosphere. You know, it doesn't matter if something happens to one of the employees' family, it hurts us all, you know. And if somebody hits hard times, we all try to help them and get them through those hard times because we've all been there. So it's good.
Kim Baker, she said, Captain D's was my first American job.
Yep.
I can remember we were supposed to say every customer, y'all come back. I could not say it without laughing. I thought it sounded so funny. I won't ever forget it.
Kim was, she did. I hired her, and she was, I think she came from Germany, if I'm not mistaken. And I hired her, and she was a great employee. I mean, she's just she's got a smile today. I mean, every time you see her, she's got a big smile on her face, and she was a great employee, and you need people like her.
And she comes to church here. She's such a joy to have her and Dale. They come here. She works, helps with our children's church, and Dale fills in for me some, and just here and there when I need him. And they're just a joy to have around. And she's a real hoot. I did not know that she was originally from Germany because she's been here so long now. She's got the same drawl we have. I mean,
she does.
Every once in a while you can catch a hint. Now that I know, you can catch that, just those tones, you know, that she's from another country. But she don't have any problem saying y'all now. She says it like Sylvester Stallone in Rhinestone Cowboy. Dog.
Yeah, she's converted. I mean, I know when I go back to Ohio, the first thing they say, we'll be ordering at the restaurant in Ohio, in my hometown, and we'll order, and where are you guys from? And, like, they know immediately.
Yes.
And I don't feel like I talk like a Southerner, but evidently I do. And I know Michelle does. She's born and raised here. But it's funny because they notice it immediately.
Yes. And I had, growing up, there were a lot of people that moved down, and I had a buddy. Can't remember his last name now. I never did. You know, when you're kids, you don't really get to know people's last names. But his name was Robert. He was from Maryland, and man, he was a couple of years older than us, but we were the only kids in the neighborhood. So he was going to play outside, he was going to have to play with us, or he was going to have to sit up there by himself. So he come down, play ball with us, and you know we did just boy stuff, built forts, and had BB gun wars, and you know, it was back when people could take a licking. It was us versus the Millers, you know, a lot of times because there was like 45 of them over there down the street. But we had a lot of fun growing up, and you know, but he had that accent, and because he was older, us younger guys, we wanted to be like the older guy. So we started mimicking some of the things he said, and man, next thing I know, I was talking like I was from Maryland. Yeah. And, I'm sure. You know, my mom was like, where'd you learn that at?
Yeah.
You know, oh, you learned it from him? Okay, you're grounded. You can't go back up there anymore. And that's when I learned to hate Yankees, you know.
I still get called a damn Yankee all the time. Yeah. You know who does that all the time. We were talking about him before. He's close. Let me see. He's from Fackler. Does that tell you? Every time I see him, it doesn't matter where it is, he calls me that, and that'll never go away.
Oh, yeah. That's got to be Dickie Holder.
Exactly.
You know, we were joking about it before we went on about a lot of those conversations, and I tell people a lot of times my favorite thing about doing sports and athletics and helping Greg, it's never – I enjoy doing the radio part of it too. That's a lot of fun, but it's the relationships and the fellowship and the conversation and just the laughs, the things that you talk about on the way to and on the way back from, but more so on the way back from, because on the way home, you know, on the way there, everybody's anticipating the game, and but on the way home, the game's over. You've either won or you've lost. And, you know, it's back to reality.
Yeah.
You know, the sun's going to come up tomorrow. You know, we're still friends. We got beat or we won. And I realized that, you know, life doesn't change because you win or lose a game, you know. So we always had fun. And a lot of those conversations, you know, I never did really get to play for Coach Morris. got hurt so early on and started playing basketball instead. Back then they didn't know anything about the kind of injuries I had, and I'm glad that I didn't play anymore. I may be in a wheelchair today. You know, it's this stuff you see now. But as I got older, I still got to have a great relationship with Moose. And he was such a good guy. You know, he and my mom, you know, they were buddies, and you know, he trusted Mom with the bus, with the driving, and you know, he'd sit over there and go to sleep or just whatever he wanted to do. You know, and he knew he was going to be okay. So he always treated me with a lot of respect, and he treated me good, and he would talk freely and you know, in front of me and around me, and I knew when he did that he, you know, he trusted me, and I didn't take that lightly. You know, that was I appreciated that so much. But those conversations with him and Dickie and Talo and me and you and Greg
on the way home. Oh, they were something else.
I'll never forget coming up behind those Crown Vics. You know, Crown Vic on the.
It was all
always leaning to one side of it.
Yeah, we'd make fun of when they pulled in the parking lot. That thing would barely scrape the ground.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, we had so much fun, and my goodness, they were probably the most fun. The best the funniest conversation we ever had was that night coming back from East Limestone.
Oh,
and Coach called us.
We
we all cried.
We did.
I think he cried a little bit.
That's one of the greatest all time. Yeah, that it can't get any better than that. Too bad we can't share it with you, but it was. You need to get Dickie Holder here, and he'll share that story with you.
Man, Dickie Holder's got a lot of stories to share.
He does.
I ain't gonna tell any of them on him, but man, it was we've had so much fun, you know, down through the years. I can remember probably the second funniest thing was that night we were, we'd gotten scorched. We were at a away game. We got scorched, and I thought somebody had wet their bridges. I took a picture of it.
I remember that. When he couldn't even talk. Yeah.
No, it was. Boy, I didn't think that through.
Oh, you did.
No. It took that guy years to speak to me after that.
Oh, there were some good. I mean, those road trips were fun. I mean, it's fun playing at home because that's where you want to be. But those road trips are fun. Just like you said, talking all the way there and coming home, and you know, we talked about the Bible. We talked about everything. You know, it wasn't just football. You know,
right.
And it's just, you know, it's good to do that with people, and I enjoyed that as much as the game.
Yeah,
you know, it's fun.
You learn a lot about a lot of things. You know, that's where I learned a lot. Started learning about the political side of life. You know, because you'd share a lot of things with us that not stuff that the public didn't know, but it was just that, you know, you helped me understand. You said it a minute ago. It's like, you know, if you knew everything, you'd think differently about that. Yeah. You just, you know, you only know that what you think you know, but there's other stuff that you don't know, and I didn't fully understand that until I got the job that I have now. I started having to go sit through those meetings, and I was informed, and then I'd be sitting there, people would be running their mouth, and that's not true. You know?
I know.
Oh yeah, you know. Yeah. I was like, I used to be that person. Mm-hmm. Ooh, you know, I can't believe it. You know, that I ever did that kind of thing. But man, you learn a lot about, you know, people. Mm-hmm. You learn a lot about allegiance. People that do things sometimes. I'll tell you the biggest lesson I learned, and when we started this up here, I instituted it from the very beginning. Do not get indebted to people. Mm-hmm. Financially is one thing, favors.
Yeah.
Do not treat people differently, because if you ever owe somebody, if they ever pull a big one for you, sooner or later, they're going to come knocking, looking for a payback. And and then something that you'll be dead set against. You'll have to go with it, and you'll hate it. And you'll hate yourself, and you'll hurt people that you don't mean to hurt. So the best thing to do is not get indebted to people.
Yep.
From the very beginning. Treat everybody the same, and try your best to do what's right for everybody. Yep. And we really did that here, and it has helped keep a lot of that stuff away. And man, it's people are sometimes amazed by the feel of this place, but there's rich people, and there's people on fixed incomes, and there's farmers and teachers and lawyers and doctors and we just got we got electricians and carpenters and railroad workers, and I mean this all, and you can't tell who's who. If you don't know them, you don't know what they do, and this is one of those unique places. It reminds me so much of those car rides.
Yeah,
because we didn't care. Nobody cared who did what. We just enjoyed each other's company, and everybody was buddies, and we were having a good time, and that's the only thing that mattered. And man, that is so beautiful. Yeah, so beautiful.
It's about helping. Like here, people did a lot here individually, do things, and you do things, and you don't ask for stuff in return. You don't want to be in the spotlight. You just want to do things for people, and that's what we all need to do, is just to do it and go about your way.
Right. And here, I figured out that just stuff like people like yourself, things that you do for people. If you do something, don't expect anything in return. Let it just let it be, from a genuine place of generosity, and move on.
Yep.
That's gone so far for me since I figured that out. I didn't always know that, Robbie. I'll just be honest with you. I didn't always know that, and just in the last 5 or 6 years, I've really, that's really started to. All of that time people spent cultivating and planting those seeds, they've finally started coming up, and I'm blown away. Yeah. Things that you tried to tell me 12, 13 years ago, I'm just in the last 2 or 3 years figuring out, and some of it's because I got pushed.
Yeah.
I got pushed into it. I can't hardly put my finger on it, exactly when it happened, but I just know that somewhere along the line, everything changed.
It will. It'll click eventually.
And I just started doing everything differently, and my whole life changed because of it. I got people who were my friends are still my friends. I found out who wasn't.
Oh, you'll find out. You get in the political world, and everybody's your friend.
Right.
When then you get out of the political world, you'll know who your real friends are.
Absolutely.
And I've told that to people that ran in office for the very first time, and I was out of it, and I said, when you get out, you're really going to see the difference. Mm-hmm. And the ones that were always in your corner before and after, they're going to be there. And after it's over, you're going to see the ones that were just riding your coattails. And it's sad, but, that's the way the world we live in.
Right. Several people are watching, man, golly, there's a bunch of people have tuned in. My wife said, "Hey, Cope," and she talked before it even showed she was watching. There's Brandon Gamble, Brian Kane, Danny Potter, Kathy Denny, Michelle Brandon, Randy Watson, Paulette Porter, Sharon Haas, Lisa Duncan, Gary Anderson. Golly, there's Gary Wright, Chris Gwynn, Robert Ashmore. Man, there's a bunch of people watching. Sales Arnold.
Old Sales. He, I think he lived in that house your mom lived in beside Michelle. I think, no. He did.
He lived in the house in City Park for the longest time.
He lived right there by, or not, did he, maybe he dated somebody on that road. But anyway, he was over there a lot. I thought he lived beside Michelle, maybe.
No, he was over there. Him and Mom dated.
That's what
for the longest time.
That's what it was. Okay.
He was over there. Man, he was. Golly, I mean, they were there for. It seemed like 2 decades. If you've seen one, you've seen the other one.
Yeah. that's what it was. Yeah, I remember that. Sales he's a good guy.
Yeah, I think a lot of sales. He's been very good to me, down through the years, and he still treats me, just like every time I see him, it's like we never been apart.
I haven't seen him in a while.
He spends a lot, he's dating a lady from Mississippi. Her name's Sarah, and they were all friends. Her husband passed away, and Mom, has passed away, but they connected, and now they're together and been together for a long time. They do a lot of traveling back and forth.
Yeah.
They spend about as much time over there as they spend over here, but he lives now up the pike, in his parents' house, and I don't get to see him much, but we still communicate just here and there.
Yeah.
But he watches a lot of these podcasts, and I'm glad he does.
Yeah.
My grandmother's watching, Bonnie. She said she's going to tune in. She ain't said anything that I've seen. She can ask some doozies, boys. Well, there she are. She said the ladies are done and watching. So she did. She talked earlier. But yeah, there's a lot of folks, Robbie, down through the years that I have talked to that have shared some good advice with me. They've given me wisdom, here and there. What's some things that people told you when you were coming up that stuck with you?
Well, I guess the biggest thing that ever stuck with me in my whole life is when my dad, and this is probably what I do now, is when he told me when he was a young child and just moved from Virginia to Ohio, and the Salvation Army delivered his Christmas gifts. And I thought, and when he told me that, I was, I wasn't out of high school or nothing like that. And that stuck with me for a long time because our Christmases growing up were fantastic. And that really, when I got involved with Christmas Charities through Kiwanis Club first, and then because Kiwanis adopted a lot of kids through Christmas Charities, and now I've been involved with Christmas Charities, and that's the reason. I mean, I just can't imagine a child not having a Christmas morning, and because I put my dad in those shoes when they moved to Ohio, and they were poor, and he moved up there. My grandfather did to work at a paper mill and make more money, and so that's probably the biggest thing that happened or was told to me that's affected me my whole entire life.
Speaking of that, this year we're doing. I don't know why, but in years past we've always tried to do a fundraiser at our Christmas kickoff. Mm-hmm. This year we decided to move it up. We're actually going to do our fundraiser at our fall festival because we have, number one, we have more people show up. Yeah. But secondly, so we can get that money together and get it in, when you are actually using it, because I found out after trying to do a little bit now that by the time we get our money in, we are pretty well done, and it just goes over to the next year, which is okay. But sometimes like last year, there was a need arose at the last minute. Yep. And then, and I imagine that happens all the time.
It does.
So, I told the church this year I wanted to do it early if we could. Yeah. So I got two girls that kind of took that over from me. They've got some great ideas on how to raise money. We're going to do it at the fall festival, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We're doing that this year as we're combining two events into one, and instead of doing it in an afternoon, we're gonna roll right out of church into it in October. I think it's the 15th, the 14th, or the 15th of October, whatever Sunday that is. We're going to have an old-fashioned day. We call it Appalachia Day. Yeah. And people wear overalls, and ladies will wear those old-timey dresses and stuff like that. And we'll play old music and sing a cappella songs and stuff like that. And we'll come out here and have dinner on the ground, and people will be picking and singing, things like that. It's a lot of fun, and it really turned into one of those things where it was bigger than I expected it to be. The fire department comes and lets the kids, hose the ground, and we just those are things stuff that I took, from guys like you and other people too that did community service work. Offer people an opportunity to do things here, and don't force them to. Don't laden them down with this feeling like they have to. Nobody wants to be preached to ahead of time, although they need it. Everybody needs to hear the gospel.
Oh yeah.
I've kind of figured out now that nobody cares how much you know till they know how much you care. Dustin says that to me a lot, and I've realized that if you offer people an opportunity to kind of get to know you, they connect with you, then they'll listen to you. Mm-hmm. And we started doing that here, and it just kind of took off. Things really, have exploded for us, and I'm just blown away. The difference that getting out here and getting busy in the community and trying to help people, the difference that makes.
It does. I mean, somebody has to do it, because there's a lot of people hurting in this community, in this world. But we get Christmas Charities started early. We have to get everything done and get them all checked out, and we started taking applications in September. The third week in September, and they go, do what? Christmas. But the time we do all that and get them approved where they're qualified, mm-hmm. and get all of it done and get it all out to the counties, in Section and Stevenson and Bridgeport and everywhere else, Pisgah, and it takes time to do all that, and then we take on, and we fight that thing all the way through Christmas, and hopefully everybody gets adopted. And luckily, God's blessed us the last 3 years, and we've taken care of every child, every senior adult, every disabled person in Jackson County the last 3 years, and that's never been done before. So, right. And this community is fantastic when it comes to that. They are unbelievable what they do for other people.
Yeah. I've said, I've been involved in the church since 2003. And then, it seemed like the more I got involved, and it's not really anything against any particular group of people. I just didn't like the way that churches in general have handled nonprofits and charity organizations. There seemed to be this attitude that developed, and you're involved in the church too. I think you serve as a deacon.
Finances and deacon and trustee, and it's always.
So you're familiar, it just seems like there's this stigma that says the church can't help anybody that's not a religious organization. Yeah. And I see that differently, and I've told the church here, if an organization's doing good, then we ought to be promoting that. And they don't have to do everything necessarily the way, that we do it. Yeah. But if they're out there trying to do work that we're not willing to go out there and do, the least we can do is try to write a check and help them get it done.
Let me tell you, the churches, which has been blown me away, we really got involved in the churches in the whole county. Start off in Scottsboro, talking to churches, getting them involved in Christmas Charities. If it wasn't for the churches, we couldn't adopt out everybody. They come, and they may take 30 kids. They may take 40 senior citizens. One church. And that's really been the big thing. Instead of a Sunday school class getting a family, now these churches are coming, and some have been doing it for, and I don't want to name the church because I don't want to pit a church against another church, but they do an unbelievable job as coming early, adopting out number of people, and that didn't happen 10 years ago. We had individuals adopting individuals, and now we've got churches adopting just 30, 40 children, or 30 or 40 seniors, and it's working. It happens all over the county.
Yeah, I would think that it would be better, easier for churches to do it, since you guys are doing a lot of the vetting. Mm-hmm. You've kind of already identified those that are in the greatest need, mm-hmm. And all the way to those that are, on the edge, they don't need a whole bunch, but they could use a little help.
Yeah, those are the ones that break my heart. Those are the ones that don't qualify for Christmas Charities. Okay, there's got to be a cutoff line. There's got to be. In everything you do, there's a line.
Yeah.
And the ones that miss just by a little bit. Now we let people, fudge just a little bit and say we're going to let them slide because we make that decision. Our board does. And but to those people is ones I really feel sorry for because they just miss out. But we try to connect them with somebody, But we have rules to go by in Christmas Charities, and those are the ones that really, really bother me. That I'll have a teacher call me from one of the schools that did so and so apply. I said, yeah, but they missed it by, let's say they made $300, $200 more a month than they were supposed to on the poverty level.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah. And I said, well, we're going to help them. I said, I'm tickled to death.
Right.
Those are the ones that they're tough to swallow. That's a tough pill to swallow.
And you can't help everybody. And I even said this past Sunday. We can't help everybody.
Nope.
But maybe we can help somebody. Mm-hmm. We can't do everything, but we can do one thing or some things. We're responsible for what we can do. And if we'll just focus on doing what we can do, then we just have to trust God to do the things that we can't do. Man, it's been revolutionary. People just, like you said, they just blow me away.
Yeah.
The amount of money they'll just give and give and give and give and give, and you just never expect to see it, and they just blow you away.
There's a lady, Tater, that came, and she was getting adopted a few years back, and she'd come in regularly and qualify. Now, she doesn't qualify. But guess what she does? She comes and adopts people now because now her life's turned around.
Right.
She's got a real good job. Everything's looking good. Now she's adopting people, and she was one of the people before that.
That's awesome.
Adopted. That's pretty awesome.
That is awesome. And that's the kind of stuff, that's the kind of reason you do stuff like that. Yeah. Like this stuff you see out here, it's not much.
Oh, it's beautiful.
But it's, like these bags and stuff. We're doing a little school supply drive. We've been kind of advertising it tomorrow night. We're going to be, instead of having our normal Wednesday services, we're going to have a little something for the kids to do. Let them come exercise and play. We could just little starter packs, pencils and crayons, and notebook paper, and, spiral notebooks, things like that. Just stuff that everybody needs a little something. And then I found out after we decided to do it that the county's paying for everything for everybody this year. So
I saw that. Yeah. Well, that's good.
But the cities, maybe there's some city kids that need a little start or need a little bit of help. I mean, that's what this stuff is for. There's no strings attached to it. They just if they show up, we're gonna give it till we run out.
Yeah,
and
it's awesome. Your church here is beautiful. I mean, this is
appreciate that.
Beautiful. I mean, I drive by it and been meaning to stop, and you've invited me many times, and it seems like when I'm going by, I'm in a hurry, either that way or that way. And but it is unbelievable what you've done and what all of your whole church congregation has done. This is unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm just like you. I didn't do it by myself, and I know I didn't. But the Lord gave us a vision, and we just followed that. And things. It's like everything else. Everything's seasonal, and things change, and nothing stays the same. The only thing guaranteed in life is for things to change. But God knows what He's doing way ahead of me. Yeah. And I've always said, you hear it all your life. When one door closes, another door opens. Well, sometimes the next door's not always open when this door seems to close. But I've learned to just trust Him in the hallway. A guy I like to listen to, Billy Alsbrooks, he said, those who can sit in silence and still believe for the sound of music will one day hear the sound of the music that they believe for. Yep. And it sure does sound sweet when you finally hear it.
Yep.
And that's been our experience here. We had no idea that this was going to turn into what it turned into. Honestly, I showed you where we started at in there in the sanctuary. Yeah. I still remember 2 years ago when we were just finishing up on that thing to get started on the first Sunday in June of 2021. We had 48 seats, 48. And I told them, I said, we'll be lucky the way things are here in this county, we'll be lucky to ever fill that up. You know, if we get 35 or 40, I'd just be tickled to death. 10 services later, we had to move outside, so I didn't have room for everybody.
Oh, that's great.
And we stayed right around, like right around 70 people up until Easter of last year, and then we started going up, and then we came back down, and we went like up to 90, and then we came back down to 80, and then back to 70 at Easter this year, and then something just hit and happened, and people started coming. Now I have people who drive from Sequatchie, Tennessee, Manchester. There's a guy, the family that drives every Wednesday and Sunday morning and Wednesday evening over from Manchester, Tennessee. And there's people who drive from Athens and Huntsville and Fort Payne and Rainsville and Pleasant Grove and the other side of Skyline and just some from down in the valley and Flat Rock and Eider and Pisgah. They're Macedonia. They just drive. People are driving 35, 40 minutes one way to come here, and I'm just blown away. It's I don't even like to hear the sound of my own voice. I know they don't like to hear me talk, but there's something very unique about places where when it's just home. I think every church has their own little niche, their own little niche that they fall in. And if everybody could just search until they found a place where they fit in and get in there, and there's no telling what the church could accomplish. No. If everybody thought about community service the way that some of us do, I used to not think about it at all till I got a little older, and now that's all I think about, anymore, because life doesn't mean the same things to me at 47 that it meant to me at 27.
I know. I want to know.
I mean, wait till you get my age, Robbie. You'll see what old really feels like then.
I hear you. But no, it's great. This place is just unbelievable. I walked in that sanctuary and I'm going, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
It's just it blew me away. You got to be proud of this. Everybody that comes here really needs to be proud of this. This is one heck of a place right here.
Well, we appreciate that, and I appreciate you coming on tonight. It's everybody comes on, nobody really knows what to expect. We just kind of start, and then I told Greg I was going to be like Paul Feinbaum. I was going to let the inmates run the asylum. But believe it or not, they act right. They do. They don't really get on here and say a whole lot out of the way. They do talk back and forth in the comments a whole lot. And sometimes a lot of people just use it as an opportunity to say hello to people that they haven't seen in a while. Yeah. And one of the things that I noticed that happens on here is people will connect, and then they'll leave the live stream because they've connected with somebody they hadn't talked to, and they just bump into them and didn't even know they had social media, things like that. And they leave and carry on conversations, and they'll come apologize to me and say, "Man, I hate to leave, but I hadn't talked to so-and-so in 20 years, and they were there, and we're going to have lunch." And, those are the kind of things that make doing something like this a whole lot of fun and worthwhile. I'm going to continue doing them as long as I can because, man, they're just – I enjoy them. I started out doing them at home, just audio only. Then I moved to video, and it was just me, and I would take phone calls and stuff like that. That was a lot of fun. Had a lot of people tuned in for those. And then I decided to branch out away from just ministry-related stuff and just reach out into the community, pull in. I got some of the city council people coming. We're going to really blister them, I hope. I'm just kidding. Mike Ashburn is terrified. He's worried, sick, that I'm going to get him. I'm going to tell you who's not scared is Nita. Nita's coming on, and she's not scared at all. I got Kenny and Brooke coming next week. That's going to be a lot of fun. And then I got Nita coming. I got Derek Wynn's coming. Katie Kirkland's coming on in October. It's going to be a lot of fun, having her on. I got Brandon Gamble will be on. He's a pastor down here in Hollywood. I try to have like one minister or one preacher or pastor a month just to keep that, side of it. But it's really good for me. I'm finding out about a lot of things about people that, because I don't get to be involved in everybody's personal life, but like you, when I first got to know you, I was like, Robbie's involved in the church, and Robbie does things here, and Robbie does things over here, and all of the different places that your hands are touching, and people have no idea, really how much you do actually participate in, and you just don't even broadcast it. Nobody knows.
I enjoy doing those things. I mean, I just like it. I like to do as long as I can, and I just enjoy doing it. Giving back to the community. And that's what we need to do.
Absolutely, man. Well, is there anything that any questions you?
No, I think you're doing a great job, and look forward to this next football season. You gonna be the stat man?
No. I'm the chaplain.
You're the chaplain.
I'm the chaplain at North Jackson.
Oh man, you're still there?
I'm still there. I'm subject to be fired at any minute. I'll tell you this. It's a funny story, man. Last year, when Coach Hollis, we were up at we went for the first week of the season, and I'd had some health issues, and I didn't even know if I was going to be able to even walk around on the sidelines. I mean, I was really, really struggling. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. Praise God, we got all that squared away now, maybe, and I'm doing better than I've done in a decade. But I'll never forget him introducing me to the team as the actual chaplain. And he said, last year he came and spoke to us every week. But he had some other obligations to a certain school down the road, and we won't talk about that. But this year he's full on chief, and I was like, whew. Well, that hurt.
It hurt a lot of people.
Yeah, but I tell you this, and I told this to Coach. I struggled with that. That was not an easy decision for me to make because I had always wanted to be the public address announcer.
And you really loved coming down here when we did.
And
I remember those days. Their press box.
And I actually told Coach when he asked me about coming, I said, Coach, I don't think you understand what you're asking. I haven't always been favorable to the Chiefs, even though my best man in my wedding was and one of my groomsmen graduated from North Jackson. I mean, what's crazy about that whole rivalry is I forgot what it was like to be in it. It wasn't as big a deal to me back then as it became to me on the other side of it. But
it's only big then. It's only big then. Robson's best friends with a lot of players he played against, and they're just real good friends.
Absolutely,
it's a neat rivalry.
It really is, and it's more fun now, probably for me, than it's ever been. Because after going through the season with those guys, you get to see being on the sidelines with those kids when they're up and when they're down and when they're struggling, being able to minister to them and do what I do one-on-one. It doesn't have anything to do with football. No. It has everything to do with what I was called to do, and I told Coach that it's at the end of the day, the hardest phone call I had to make was, or the message that I had to send was when Brad Dudley sent me the message, I need to find another PA guy. I was like, boy, to have to answer him back and say, well, I was trying to wait till I saw you in person. I felt like that was a conversation we needed to have face to face since he'd give me the opportunity to do it. And then basketball kind of stepped up and said, hey, if you're not going to be up there for that, we want you. And I really appreciated that because that's what I really wanted to do all along. I wanted to do that more than I wanted to do football. But because I love, and I got that from Greg, the love I have for high school athletics. And one night before a game, you were talking about this. I'll never forget it. It was one of the best opinions that I'd ever heard, but it was the truth. You said, I love Ohio State, and you guys love Alabama and Auburn, and college football's a lot of fun. NFL football's what it is. And all these other sports, what there is there's something special, something very pure and true about this particular level of athletics. These kids ain't getting paid. They come out here and they work their tails off, and they do it just because they just love to do it.
Yeah, and it's even more pure now.
Yeah.
The college players getting played. Yeah, you can't beat high school. You cannot beat high school sports.
No.
I mean, it is, and I'm partial to football, and I love all the sports, but it doesn't get any better than that.
No, it don't. I think one of the, I've been at games. I've been going for a long time, and up until last year, we were always together. There's been a decline in attendance, not just basketball, but or football, but basketball and football and baseball and softball even. And, you know, there's it's like people are disinterested. They're missing something very, very pure, very beautiful. It's just, I don't know. I don't really know how to explain it to people, but sitting in those bleachers may not seem like a big deal to you, but it's a huge deal to those kids that are out there playing. You know, just to know that people have come to watch them, that is a big deal to those young people.
In Scottsboro, we'll play in front of a bigger crowd right here in Scottsboro than we will anywhere on the road. I mean, Scottsboro, a lot of schools have dropped off way before now, and but Scottsboro turns out. I mean, it doesn't matter what the record is; they turn out. In other schools, we go to other schools, and it's unbelievable how sometimes our visiting side, when we're traveling, is bigger than their home side.
Absolutely. You know, I remember when we were in those Huntsville regions all the time. Oh, yeah. Gosh, those road games were just absolutely rough. I mean, they were rough. Let's see. Raylan said you should have answered when she called her. I didn't know that might have been that political call I was getting.
That might have been.
Kim Baker said Robbie is a big blessing to this community. Raylan called somebody else. All right. Man, people really liking. There's been a bunch of people watching. Golly day. People still want that recipe, Robbie.
You know, let me tell you, and making tea, and these old timers know, it's all about the temperature of the tea.
Yes.
I mean, it's all about the temperature of the water when you brew tea. Mm-hmm. And then when you put sugar in, you know, you don't put sugar in first. I mean, it's a, and I'm not telling everybody how we do it.
Yeah.
You can sit there and watch this one day. But no, it's all about the temperature of the water when you brew tea and when you put the sugar in and how much ice you put in it. And it's, and that's how it works. I mean, it is.
It's a crazy thing to watch. I do have one question. Well, I got a few questions. I'd like to. I got about 5 minutes.
Okay.
I want to ask you as many of these questions as I can.
Okay.
If somebody wrote a book about you, what would it be? What do you think the title of that book would be?
Depends on what generation you're talking about when I hung around them. If it was, I don't know. It all depends. If it was now, if it was this time of my life, I'd said just that, you know, I cared for people. Yeah. You know.
What would be the best compliment you ever got from an enemy?
From an enemy?
Mm-hmm. Something they said about you that maybe they meant it in a derogatory way, but you felt like it was a compliment.
Oh man, I don't know. I don't know. Tough one.
If Robbie Copenhaver could only eat one meal for the rest of his life, what would it be?
One meal? I know I'm supposed to say something about Captain David, but let me tell you, after 45 years, I've had plenty of one of those meals. I mean, from everything to, I love a good steak dinner. Absolutely. Any day of the week.
I know why Captain D's don't have a buffet. I bet everybody else don't.
No, don't get me started on buffets. I will make some enemies out there because every time I start bringing it up, I said, "You've ruined it, Copenhaver. You've ruined it."
I won't eat at them anymore. I hate them. I don't. I mean, I look up there, and if it don't have a plate coming down, exactly. I don't even reach up under there. I don't want it anymore. You've ruined it for me. Who is the most influential person in your life, living or dead?
Well, I definitely have to say my dad. He definitely was, and there was a coach changed my life a whole lot in the 7th grade, and that was Larry Nevels. And I just moved here, and I got mixed up with the wrong crowd. And that's I wish I could do more about that too. When people move into town, people need to get around those people and direct them in the right direction, you know. And I got around the wrong crowd, and he told me point blank, he knew I was. He was calling me a gangster, and I wasn't even here but about a month or two. And he told me to be in his pickup truck in the 7th grade. We were going to spring training football. I said, I don't want to play football. He said, you be in that truck, or you're not going to want to see me in the morning. I go, so I was in that truck that afternoon, and he drove me to football practice from where Page is now over to where the Retcom was. And then all the rest of the people, all the players had to walk from Page to the field over there. And then the next day, he said the same thing. He said, you be in that truck tomorrow because you're going to the football field. And I said, I really don't want to do it. He goes, you better be there. So I did. And the third day, he said, you can walk with the other players. And I did. And a lot of those people that I started hanging around with, a lot of them end up dead not long after high school, in prison. And he knew. And at that time, you know, down the road, I've told he's passed away now, and but I always told him that he changed. I could have went down the wrong path, and there's no telling where I'd be today. But he was a big influence on my life because I was scared to death of him because there was no telling what he'd do. And but no, he had a big influence. But yeah, my father he taught me a whole lot about life.
Right. I feel the same way about Jerry Kirkland. You know, he had the same impact on me at a very. He and Becky Russell. She was my sophomore English teacher. Both her and Coach Kirkland, I about tell them every time I see them, you know, how much I appreciate what they did because they probably, you know, saved me. They probably saved my life in more ways than one. Yeah. Kept me off the wrong track. I mean, Coach Kirkland, I was terrible at basketball. He should have got rid of me.
Did he have a nickname for you?
Yes, he did. Pumpkinhead.
Pumpkinhead. I wonder Greg did put that out there.
Oh, he wanted to real bad. I got a nickname for him too, though. So Derek Wynn be on in a few weeks too. And one night I'll never forget. Whenever the coach would come up to interview, I'd pull my headphones off and they used my headset, and I forgot to trim them down. You know, Derek Wynn picks it up. He's on the air and he says, "God, you got a big old head."
I just got
like, and it was like the way either the same night or a week later is when Coach Kirkland said, "Oh, Pumpkinhead back there," and Greg lost it, and I've been after him ever since. He brings it up all the time. A lot of people wonder what funny story I was going to tell about Cope, and there's a bunch of them I could tell, but the funniest one to me. I was looking through my phone the other day, clearing out some old files and stuff. I found a video from the Warrenton Causeway gas station coming off of Arab. Coming out of Arab, there's a gas station we used to stop. And you remember the little girl the girl that ran the gas station? She was from India or somewhere, but she would always ask Greg, "You want to buy a cigarette?" Greg would say, "No cigarette, no cigarette." Well, anytime we'd go in, Greg always wanted to pay for whatever we got, and in order to him, the only way we could keep him doing that was to go to the bathroom or something. One night, you'd been giving me crap. I mean, the whole way there, and you went to the bathroom, and we went on to the counter, and you paid for stuff, and I was like, I'm fixing to get coke. You probably remember this, but I picked up a packet of horny goat weed, and I told that girl when you got to the corner to give it to you, so tell you look like you needed it. And when you got up there, I was standing outside video.
I remember that.
Soon as she slid it to you, you knew. You
I
knew.
did all I do. I
You looked around. You was scanning the horizon looking for me, and when you finally seen me hiding over in the corner trying to record, you said, "Oh, I'm gonna get you, boy."
Oh, I remember that. Oh, we had some doozies.
We played a lot of pranks on each other. It was a ton of fun, man. And then people ended up calling me that. So it's we've had a lot of good times, Robbie, going up and down the roads. I wish that I had weeks to explain, that I could tell all of the stories of the experiences and things that I've got to experience. But all I can do is I sit around here tonight in places like this, and I think about, the entire scope of my life and all the people that I've got to know because of the things the Lord's allowed me to do. And I've learned this lesson, and I think you would agree that you don't get anywhere in life without relationships. Anybody who has been successful on any level, it's because they developed good relationships, and they got the right kind of relationships with people, and they treated people right, and they did things the right way, and the Lord used other people to help them, come up the ladder. And those are the people that are generally that maintain, that level of success. Because it's hard to stay up. It's easier to get up there than it is stay up there. But when people like you have been able to maintain a certain level for all these years, even during the COVID and when other places were closing the doors, couldn't figure out how to make it work, you just still chugging along. Like that story Major Payne told, the little engine that could chugga 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 toot.
Let me tell you, the people I had working for me kept that boat going. They were dedicated, and they were not going to be denied, and they just kept coming. So.
And that was during a time when they probably could have done something else. Could have sat at home like everybody else was doing.
Got unemployment, and they were giving out unemployment. All you had to do is say you had COVID. You were afraid of COVID, and I can't work. Well, guess what? Boom, you automatically got unemployment.
Yeah, and that's a testament though to you, more so. Probably you don't really see it that way, but as somebody who is an employee and not an employer, I find myself, I feel differently about some different employers that I've had. There's been some that I've had that I'd swing over hell with a water pistol and squirt the devil in the eye, and I'd do that for them, because I felt like they'd do that for me.
Yeah.
There's others that I would have done that. I'd have said, I'm scared, and I'd have hunted something else to do while I was sitting around, But when you work for somebody who cares, and they care, and they're trying, and they're constantly trying to improve and do things. They're not stale. They're not stagnant. I know how you feel about Alabama, but Nick Saban always says that about the process, and he's right about that. Is you can't focus on what you did yesterday. You got to focus on what's out in front of you. And I don't know if you ever heard the story about how the process came to be, but it actually became a thing for him when he was at Michigan State.
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah, I remember.
It was that Ohio State game where they weren't supposed to win and they won. He said, and they focused on every play. And they coached every single play of that game. Yeah. And he said that's when he realized that was going to be the way to build something special.
I like listening to Coach Saban. I think he's an interesting guy, and he's successful, and he's just he knows how to build character and build men, and you can't fault him for that. I mean, he's just a great builder of people, and I like him. I mean, I really do. I mean, I don't. My wife graduated from there, so I don't root against them. But when they play Ohio State, I do root against them. So, but no, my brothers are all about it. They left their allegiance, and not me. I'm still right there with them.
You're still the old sweater vest kind of guy.
I was born at the Ohio State University Hospital, and I'm going to be a Ohio State.
I heard that, man.
But I enjoyed it, Tater. I've enjoyed you inviting me out here, and it's great. you're doing a great job with this church, and you're doing a great job with this, going on the air and bringing different guests in here and enlightening people on who they really are and what they do and what they enjoy. And that's just, that's good. That's really good.
Well, it's been a lot of fun, and this will be, a lot of people will share this and like this, and you may hear about it, on down the line. I'm trying to do a first wave this year. I'm calling it a season. It's like a trial run, like a pilot season. Next year, once I get through the first of the year, next year I'm going to do it again. And as I get through the first round of guests, then I'm going to bring everybody back again that'll come back, and we're going to attack topics.
Yeah.
And I think this is going to be a lot of fun, man. It's liable to get, a little pinchy, here and there, but I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I really want to challenge people, man, to, and that's what this whole first season has been about. Bringing people on, and people say, I actually have people walk up to me, I can't believe you. I mean, what happened to bringing preachers on? Well, preachers aren't the only people who affected me. Yeah. I am who I am by the grace of God, but God used people outside of the ministry to help mold me into the kind of man that I am, the kind of pastor that I am. A lot of the things that I do had nothing to do with the ministry. Those are things that are just part of me. That's my character. That's just who I am. And I do that. I learned those values other places. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And yes, they have biblical principles in the core, but I'm way fine with bringing other people on. Perspectives are an amazing thing.
Yeah, the more ideas you get from people, the better off you are.
Yeah, you can make it's like having all the facts.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like having all the facts. You when you can understand why somebody makes the choices they make, it'll help you make better decisions too.
Yep.
Seeing things through rose-colored glasses is fine, but it's over here, on the other side of that you don't really. There's always a side of something that I used to never try to think about, and now I always try to think about it. Before I blab something in the pulpit anymore, I try to think about the person that might be sitting out there having to deal with what I'm about to say.
Yep.
Okay, so if what I'm about to say is the truth, is the way I'm about to say it going to be beneficial? Because if it's not going to bring about positive change, I might as well not even say it. If it's not going to help them fix it, then it doesn't matter if what I say is the truth or not. But if they believe I care enough that I'm going to try to help them fix it, then you never know what the outcome will be. So I appreciate you coming on, Robbie. It's been a lot of fun, man, and I look forward to doing it again. We're going to get together again next year and do this, and hopefully, even every year after that. Now that that I'm not going to railroad you.
I wasn't worried about it. You texted me yesterday, goes, you got any questions? I said, nope, I'll just show up.
Yep.
Not a problem.
Some of the guys a few weeks ago, they decided they were going to interview me, put me on the hot seat, and then right before we came in, they said, we're not going to ask you really any questions because we're scared that you're going to turn around and get us. Yeah. That's kind of the way I felt today. I was like, I ain't going to be too rough because he'll get me. He knows too much.
That's right. Exactly. Well, I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming on. Guys, I appreciate it. Listen, before we go off the air tonight, all my Mud Creek squad, love you guys. Thank you so much for all that you do to help us do this and providing all of the means for this to even happen. Tomorrow night, just remember, guys, show up if you want to eat. We're going to eat tomorrow night at 5:30, between 5:30 and 5:45. It's starting at 6:30. We're having our school supply drive here. Need all hands on deck, so you guys come, be ready. If you're out there and you need, and you don't have to let anybody know your name. We're not taking names, but we just want you to come and let us get to know you. We'd love the opportunity to be able to help you. But we'd love even more the opportunity to get to know you. So come be a part of that. We appreciate all that you do. Thank you again, Mud Creek. Thank you again, Robbie, for coming on. Appreciate Michelle letting you break loose. I imagine she's probably enjoying some peace and quiet, but I don't know. Mine does. My wife loves Tuesday nights. She loves Thursday nights because we have a men's only meeting here. And when come football season, she loves Friday nights. Yep. She said, I love my quiet time. Yep. She tries to get into bed before I get home, where she don't even have to deal with me, win or lose. She said she doesn't like me either way. So she said I'm all charged up either, one way or the other. But I'm looking forward to another fun year. We talk a lot during football season still, but we just have to do it on the phone. Yep. And it's gonna be a great year, guys. I love y'all. I appreciate you. Everything that y'all do. Before we go, I'd like to pray. We always try to pray out. So may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Father, thank you for the day, the hour, the opportunity to pray. Thank you, Lord, for this chance to be in this place doing this one more time. Thank you for Robbie. Lord, I pray you continue to bless him and his family, bless his businesses, and God, all the people that work for him, continue to help him. Lord, be a help to them. God, we thank you for everything that he does in this community, and I pray, God, that you continue to bless those works and all the efforts, Lord, in the charities and the different organizations that he participates in. Lord, continue to give us generous hearts, Lord. Help everybody, Lord, that's seeing this or hearing this tonight. God, become generous spirited themselves, and let's all look for opportunities to better serve you in and around our communities, whether it be across town or down the street or right across the road or just even right in front of us. Lord, we thank you for all that you're doing. I ask you to go with us now, lead us, guide us, and direct us, and help us in all the ways that you'd have us to be. Guard us, hedge us up, bring us all back together to a appointed time. And we give you the honor and the glory for it all in Jesus' name. Amen and amen. Robbie, thank you very much, my man.
Thank you, man. Enjoyed it.
Yes, sir. Me too. So long, everybody. Till next time. Let's meet at the creek. Thank you for meeting us at the creek, and we hope you enjoyed today's podcast. If you have questions or comments you'd like for us to read, send those to mudcreekpastor@gmail.com. Again, that's mudcreekpastor@gmail.com. Thank you for meeting us at the creek, and we'll see you next time.